It's Wednesday, June 14th. Welcome to this week's edition of CT Pulse on the HAN Network. I'm Kate Chaplinsky, and today we're going to be talking with Trumbull Times editor Donald Lang about an FOI complaint filed by Connecticut Democrats against Republican gubernatorial candidate Tim Herbst. We also lighten things up later on with some drawn conclusions with our editorial cartoonist Doug Smith, and we'll be talking about a recent appearance by Congressman Jim Himes in Ridgefield, where he spoke about potentially moving a president from office for mental health issues. But up first, we do want to mention that this morning, Connecticut's delegation are reacting to the shooting in Virginia that left House Majority Whip Steve Scalise of Louisiana wounded. Scalise's wounds were not believed to be life-threatening, according to officials. Now, Representative Jim Himes said he was horrified by the shooting, tweeting that we're praying for those injured and grateful for those who keep us safe. U.S. Senator Richard Blumenthal also tweeted that he's hopeful everyone can put aside politics and support all that are affected. U.S. Senator Chris Murphy also released a statement saying, in part, "My heart sank when I heard about what happened this morning in Alexandria. We're pulling for Congressman Scalise, the staff, and the Capitol police officers who were injured this morning." Murphy went on to say that the congressional baseball game, where Republicans and Democrats get together to raise hundreds of thousands of dollars for charity, is a wonderful event. He said, "I look forward to being part of the game every year, and for this unhinged individual to have targeted an event that is about fellowship and camaraderie makes it all the more tragic." You can get more on his statement at any of our HAN Network news sites. But taking a turn now, New Canaan Advertiser reporter Grace Duffield was in Ridgefield last week for an event with Congressman Jim Himes, who represents the 4th District, and she reports that Himes and Connecticut's Deputy Secretary of State Scott Bates spoke at the forum, which was called Russia, the U.S., and Trump. This happened on June 10th at the Ridgefield Library. More than 200 people were attending. Now, the question that got the biggest crowd response was when Ridgefield resident Ann Ellsworth asked, "Is there ever going to be any mental health testing of Trump?" Another question prompted Himes to describe Trump's performance at the North Atlantic Treaty Organization NATO conference as a disaster. Well, take a look at Himes' response to that question about mental health evaluation.
There are big things at stake here, very big things at stake, right? I mean, a properly removed president is an exercise of graceful constitutional authority. An improperly removed president is a coup d'etat. And this first really started coming up, of course, in the 1960s when somebody asked the question, what if JFK had survived the attack that proved fatal, but had survived in a coma? There was no legal authority to appoint somebody to step in and assume the president's power. So in 1967, we passed the 25th Amendment, which gives the vice president and the cabinet the right to deem the president incapable of exercising his or her authority, or a congressionally appointed body.
Now, in other topics that came up during that talk, Himes, who attended the NATO conference in May, was asked by a forum attendee what he thought about Trump's performance on the world stage. He said it was a disaster. Take a look.
He took a specific mention of Article 5, which is the core of NATO, out of his speech, and everybody knows that he did it. Apparently, I wasn't in the room. He in a room with other NATO leaders, couldn't string a sentence together. This is a man who doesn't know the facts, who acts on instinct, all things that we do not, in that context. NATO is the security context that we want. The recent withdrawal from the Paris climate thing, basically the shutting down of TPP, and that whatever you think of TPP, whatever you think of NAFTA, we are saying to the world, we're no longer going to be there, and by the way, we're no longer going to lead. That's what every country in the world has heard in the last 4 months, and that's a very dangerous world.
Now, during that event, Michael Andrews of Ridgefield asked Himes if the government could tone down the hyperpolarization. Himes responded in part that he's a little bit of a First Amendment absolutist. He said that he does not want government to evaluate anybody, and he said, quite frankly, I think it's up to us as citizens. Unfortunately, he said, you are celebrated for bombastic language and for being outrageous. Himes also spoke about civility in political discourse and about his constituents in the 4th District. Take a look.
I'm so lucky that in my congressional district, I've got my fringy folks, no question about it, on both sides. But I'm very lucky in that most people in my district actually don't like that kind of language. And the question is, what can we do through our churches, our Rotary clubs, our Boy Scouts, our civic institutions to really put a value on being thoughtful and careful in the way you treat the political system that we are all very lucky to be able to participate in?
And we just want to thank again Grace Duffield for all of that video, and you can get more at ncadvertiser.com. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, Trumbull Times editor Donald Ang joins me to discuss state Democrats filing an FOI complaint against Trumbull First Selectman Tim Herbst. That coming up on CT Pulse after this.
At InSports Trumbull, the game is always on inside. Registration is now open for our fitness training programs for high school athletes. The InSports Performance Center is offering blast speed classes, athletic functional movement assessments, and both men's and women's elite speed and strength training. Our premier programs help bring athletes to the next level. Call 203-268-1214 for more information. Like and follow us on Facebook. At InSports Trumbull, the game is always on inside. Registration is now open for our fitness training programs for high school athletes. The InSports Performance Center is offering blast speed classes, athletic functional movement assessments, and both men's and women's elite speed and strength training. Our premier programs help bring athletes to the next level. Call 203-268-1214 for more information. Like and follow us on Facebook. At InSports Trumbull, the game is always on inside. Registration is now open for our fitness training programs for high school athletes. The InSports Performance Center is offering blast speed classes, athletic functional movement assessments, and both men.
At the Milford Bank, we offer an extensive selection of lending products and services to meet virtually any need. Submit your application online in our Mortgage Web Center. Start to finish, you can apply for a loan in as little as 10 minutes. Our knowledgeable and helpful staff are available to meet with you at your convenience. To learn more about what we can do for you, stop by one of our Milford Bank offices or visit us at milfordbank.com. The Milford Bank, always there. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
I can't believe it.
Well, Dad, you did it. You sold 160 cars. Ready to go back upstairs now?
I think it's time. I wonder how the boys are making out in their new office. Not what I had in mind, Kyle. What, Dad?
Maybe we should retire. Right now, lease a 2017 Rogue S for only $139 a month. Isn't it time you got Millerized?
Pizza to satisfy even the most demanding critics. Wilton Pizza.
If you've ever thought about owning a motor coach or learning about what it's like to travel the open road in superior style and comfort, then contact Dave's RV Center in Danbury, Connecticut. Offering the best quality Class A motorhomes from Newmar, travel trailers and fifth wheel lines from Surveyor, and a toy hauler line from Work and Play. Choose from Newmar's Gas Line, Baystar and Canyon Star, or from Newmar's Diesel Line, Ventana and Dutch Star. And with unparalleled service and maintenance, Dave's RV is committed to keeping you and your motor coach safely on the road and enjoying it to the fullest. Stop by their showroom, 2 Industrial Plaza Road, Danbury, Connecticut, or call 877-483-3866.
I'm Tracy Masella, a licensed clinical social worker at Silver Hill Hospital in New Canaan. Join me each month as we talk with experts on the front lines of the treatment of mental health and addiction. Straight Talk with Tracy, a Silver Hill Hospital production, airs at 12 p.m. on the second Thursday of each month here on the HAN network.
At InSports Trumbull, the game is always on inside. Registration is now open for our fitness training programs for high school athletes. The InSports Performance Center is offering blast speed classes, athletic functional movement assessments, and both men's and women's elite speed and strength training. Our premier programs help bring athletes to the next level. Call 203-268-1214 for more information. Like and follow us on Facebook.
Welcome back to CT Pulse on the HAN Network. I'm Kate Chaplinsky, and I'm joined now by our friend Donald Ang, Trumbull Times editor. Don, I feel like we're often talking about Trumbull stories on CT Pulse, partly because Trumbull's first selectman is running for governor, and he tends to make a lot of news.
He is running for governor. He tends to, he has a very entertaining relationship with the state Democrats, who obviously see him as a fairly strong candidate because he really is the object of their attention more so than really any other Republican currently running, and this week certainly no exception.
Yeah, let's talk about this. So just before Tim announced, it was last week, that he was officially running for governor, state Democrats announced an FOI complaint against him. Tell us how this started.
Well, this started way back in 2015, actually. Democratic Chairman Tom Kelly, who also at the time was on the Board of Finance, bought a small house in Stratford that he intended to use as kind of like a weekend type place. It's near the water, and so he bought this house, and then Bill Holden, the Republican Registrar of Voters, filed a state elections enforcement complaint against Kelly, alleging that Tom Kelly did not live in Trumbull, that he in fact lived in Stratford. Holden included some some mortgage documents and things like that. He also had a couple of eyewitness testimonies that about where Tom was living, and he had a private investigator file an affidavit saying that he had approached Tom Kelly at the Stratford home, identified him as Tom Kelly from a photo he was provided, and then asked if he owned that house. And Tom confirmed that yes, he did own that house, and so therefore that affidavit was included in the complaint against Tom Kelly before the State Elections Enforcement Commission back in 2015. Now, this complaint was dismissed unanimously because the state requirement is that in order to be an elector in a town, you must have a bona fide residence in that town. And there was no dispute that Tom Kelly had at all this time owned his Trumbull home. So the complaint was unanimously dismissed. And then we fast forward back to January of 2017, the state Democrats filed an FOI request wanting to know who hired and who paid this private investigator. And this falls into the narrative the Democrats are spinning that Tim Herbst uses public taxpayer funds to go after his political enemies. And so they filed this information request in January of 2017, and then as of March, they had not received a satisfactory response, and so now, here in June, they have gone ahead and filed the complaint with the FOI Commission.
Now, this is interesting. Now, do we know if at the time Tom Kelly knew he was being asked a question by a private investigator? Did the person identify themselves when they came up to him, or do we not know that?
He did. As far as I can tell, he did know that because he was in the backyard of his house. According to Tom, has kind of periodically kind of told the story to me.
It's come up definitely on public forums.
Forums. He was approached by this private investigator who had as I said, identified him from a photo that he was given. Now, we don't know who gave him the photo. It wasn't in the affidavit. So Tom Kelly, as you know, he's about 60 years old, and so the private investigator approached him and asked if he was Tom Kelly and said he had a subpoena for him. And then he showed Tom Kelly and he asked if he was, are you in fact Tom Kelly? And when Tom confirmed that yes, he was, the private investigator had a photo that he had just downloaded off the internet of some random man that was about 25 years old, and then he said, that's not you. Sorry about that. And then he left, but having confirmed that was Tom Kelly and that he did own the house. And then a few nights later, the same private investigator returned and reported seeing blue light, like flickering blue light, coming from one of the windows, which he said is usually indicative of a television or a computer screen. So, based on those two visits, the private investigator reported that his belief that Tom Kelly was living at the house in Stratford.
Now, this is interesting because we do hear about it come up in other towns, like did an official move out of town? Can they still serve? It comes up, but you rarely hear about the private investigator getting involved. I mean, it's kind of a bizarre layer that kind of seems to come up in Trumbull because politics gets pretty heated there.
Right. And that's not the standard. I mean, the standard of your residency is not where do you sleep 6 months plus 1 day. The standard is, do you have a residence in the community where you are a registered elector? And in this case, like I said, that was never in dispute.
Yeah. So now has Tim Herbst responded to the FOI complaint asking, who paid for it and who hired?
Town Attorney Dennis Kokinos has responded.
Okay.
There was an email chain between Lee Appleby, the state Democratic spokesman, and Town Attorney Dennis Kokinos, and Kokinos has confirmed that no town funds were spent on any private investigator in the 18 months prior to the request, which would include that time. Appleby was not satisfied with that response because his original FOI request had asked if any agents of the town, any consultants of the town, if basically anyone connected with the town had ever been billed or invoiced for a private investigator. Kokinos's reply said the town did not pay any investigator, which Appleby considered to be a bit too vague, or maybe not vague, the opposite of vague actually, a bit too specific for considering what they had asked for. So that complaint now is in front of the FOI Commission, and we'll see if they act on it.
So are Democrats feeling that maybe still the town could have paid for it in a way because they paid the attorney to potentially hire?
Right. That's kind of that's the hypothesis that,
Right.
that Democrats are working under, is that the town didn't pay anyone, nudge nudge, but maybe perhaps a town attorney or someone else would have perhaps hired and paid for the private investigator, and then the town would have been billed by this third party. So the town didn't hire an investigator, someone else did, and then presumably the town would have paid them. And that's another thing. Much like Tom Kelly's owning a house in Trumbull was never in doubt. The fact that a private investigator approached Tom Kelly and filed a report in this SEEC complaint is not in dispute. The private investigator conducted the investigation and filed his report. What's being questioned is who hired him, who paid him, and no one seems to know.
Now, this kind of rumor around Tim Herbst has come up before, him getting involved or trying to file complaints against his opponents. I mean, in the way that, there's been rumors that he's called people's employers and complained about them. I mean, our own Josh Fisher, who used to work here at the HAN network, had that happen to him, actually. Tim Herbst called his manager to ask about his job and kind of complain about that a little bit. So, I mean, are the Democrats saying this is how Tim Herbst does business? Is that kind of their argument?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
This is how Tim does business. And also, as you mentioned, the state Democrats, on the day Tim announced for governor, their response to they were at Tim's announcement, and their response to his announcement included this accusation that Tim uses taxpayer funds to settle political scores. They've also complained about the alert call sent out in response to a political flyer, and pointed out that 2 days later, when a Memorial Day parade that 10,000 people were planning on attending got canceled, there was no call. But there was a call when there were a couple hundred flyers distributed that were critical of the administration. So this is going to be an ongoing narrative that the first selectman of Trumbull is heavy-handed and uses taxpayer funds. This is going to be the state Democrats clearly are going to be following this tactic from now until presumably the election.
Now, we do want to play some video from Tim Herbst's announcement that he is in fact running for governor. Let's take a look at that.
A tragic downward spiral. Those of you that know me know that I have an Irish father and a Syrian mother. I tell it like it is. I'm about the bottom line, and I'm not afraid to ruffle feathers. I care deeply about my community and my state, and I don't mince words when it comes to fighting for a better future for the next generation. Now is not the time for political gamesmanship or gimmicks. The people of our state deserve honest, straightforward leadership and need experienced reformers who are willing to make the tough calls to enact real change. I thought I would see our state.
All right, and that video captured by Dylan Haviland. Now, Don, obviously we want to mention again, Democrats must see Tim as a threat.
Well, yes. I mean, a couple of years ago, he lost that very close race for treasurer, and at the time he was considered the up-and-coming kind of young rising star in the Republican Party. Really, among the Republicans, that view has not changed. He's a dynamic fundraiser. His supporters tend to be very enthusiastic. So that's kind of the catch-22 that the Democrats are in, which is that he can very easily label their attacks against him political, and then as far as his supporters go, will they care very much about these complaints? So
Right.
that remains to be seen.
Right, and in the last election cycle, we saw him all around the state supporting Republicans getting elected into the House and state Senate. So
Right. He formed his own political action committee and
Right.
supported a number of Republican candidates, most notably in the Valley and in the kind of the northeast portion of the state. So, that was clearly some advanced planning there.
Yeah, all right, Don. Well, I'm sure we'll be talking to you again at some point because there's always something happening in Trumbull.
I know, right? The sleepy little Trumbull. Always something going on.
Keeps you busy. All right, Donald Lang of the Trumbull Times, thank you so much. We're going to step out for a break, and when we come back, we lighten things up a lot with our own editorial cartoonist, Doug Smith, after this.
Did you know heart attacks and strokes are the leading cause of death in America? Protect the health of you and your loved ones. Talk to a doctor about heart disease. Hi, I'm Dr. David Pazer with ProHealth Physicians, encouraging you to stay informed about health matters that affect you.
ProHealth Physicians is on the pulse of social media to share information about health and nutrition with the community. Get up-to-the-minute alerts, including ProHealth Physicians news and upcoming events. Connecticut's leading group of primary care doctors is just a click away.
Part of banking well is doing good. That's why, with the support of local community partners, Bankwell has launched the Bankwell Pet Adoption Project to boost awareness about the hundreds of animals in local shelters that need a home. And when you donate to the cause using the Bankwell self-service coin machines, we'll match your donation. For details, visit mybankwell.com/pleaseadoptme. Bank smart, bank local, bank well.
When it comes to considering the outside of your home, just imagine the possibilities. Whether your dream is a stunning freeform pool or a tranquil, secluded garden, the team of professionals at Stonebridge Associates will make it a reality. We offer unparalleled landscape design and construction, masonry development, pools, spas, and water features, as well as landscape and garden maintenance. No other firm can offer the same level of creativity, quality, and personal attention. Discover the possibilities at stonebridgeassociates.net or call 203-544-8376 today.
On time, done right, safe and reliable. MrHandymanCT.com.
Let our satisfied customers tell it.
I have called Mr. Handyman for every reason, every occasion, every broken item, every leak. They have bailed me out on many occasions, and I would recommend them to anyone.
For any project, large or small.
MrHandymanCT.com.
Family and Children's Aid has been serving the community since 1809 and is now the largest outpatient children's mental health care provider in Western Connecticut. Our innovative services include providing shelter to homeless moms and children, substance abuse intervention, mental health counseling, and foster and adoptive services, among others. Our goal is to provide individuals and families a safe haven and hope for a brighter future. Find out more about us at fcaweb.org and call our Danbury campus at 203-748-5689.
At Portofino Restaurant and Wine Bar in Bethel, fresh and simple food is our concept. Owned and operated by brothers Rocco and Louie, Portofino has a distinct and diverse food and drink menu. Open Tuesday through Sunday. Come join us for live local music on Tuesdays and Sundays, Wednesday nights for mouthwatering prime rib, and every Thursday night is ladies' night. Planning a party? All our catering menus are personalized to suit your event and your budget. Join us at the Dolan Plaza, 213 Greenwood Ave, Bethel, and call us at 203-797-8131. Like us on Facebook.
If you're watching this broadcast, you're not alone. The HAN network is available for 200,000 Connecticut cable customers on the Frontier Network, and we've also reached more than 2 million viewers on our free live streaming sports, news, and entertainment broadcasts. To reach our rapidly growing audience, contact Advertising Director Jessica Murrin at 203-273-7312 or email jessica@han.network.
Welcome back to CT Pulse on the HAN Network. I'm joined by Doug Smith, who's hitchhiking with a cat.
Yeah, well, that's my cat Haley, who I've mentioned in the past. Just follows me around like a dog everywhere I go. So please.
Like a dog. All right, well, that's unusual for a cat. Well, welcome, Doug. Always happy to have you. Let's take a look at your editorial cartoons this week. First up, we've got a new tick in Connecticut.
Right, the Texas tick, or Lone Star tick. It's from down south. Fortunately, I guess it doesn't carry Lyme disease, but the weird thing is its bite can cause allergies to red meat.
To meat, isn't that bizarre?
Which, given my cholesterol and age, that's probably not the worst thing in the world.
So maybe we should find you a Lone Star tick and then just, all right.
Keep a jar of them on hand, you know.
To me, it sounds like a nightmare, but, you know, got to watch out for that. All right, up next, we have an Easton cartoon. Tell us about this one.
Right, you know, parents and board members are complaining that teachers are taking too much time to attend meetings, conferences, and sessions and not spending enough time in the classroom. Teachers are saying they're using their personal time to do this. I guess they're under scrutiny now by the board. I kind of think it sounds like the business world where people just want to do their job and they're just being pestered with endless meetings.
Under the microscope, yeah.
Right. You know, I have a sister and niece who are teachers, and they have to deal with constant bureaucracy, and all they just want to do is their job.
Yeah.
But,
Amen.
you know, it should just be, I always think it should just be a superintendent, principal, and teachers, but, you know, schools have to have 50 administrative assistants, so.
Yeah, we do see that a lot. Administrative heavy. All right, well, up next, first of all, I just want to say that First Selectman Rudy Marconi has some wonky toes. I didn't know that.
Well, I haven't
Never
seen his toes
feet
up close, but.
So that's him dipping his toe in the governor's race?
Yeah, he's still deciding, mulling it over if he wants to join the race. You know, his wife is, I guess she's kind of against it. But I guess, you know, he's a well-liked guy in town. He's kind of like Loretti. People don't want to see him leave.
Right. He's well loved in Ridgefield, and you know, it was on this show that he first said he was potentially interested in that. Of course, his wife was not happy to hear about that the next day. He hadn't given her a warning.
I wonder if she bought him those purple shorts.
Yeah, they're very nice. All right. Well, up next, tell us about this one.
Oh, it's the old 830G law again.
Knocking on
but
the door.
New Canaan now has the moratorium, meaning they have enough housing designated as affordable. So I guess it's for 4 years. Developers cannot come into town and just bypass zoning laws. So.
So they're getting rid of 8-30G on the doorstep.
Yeah, when he shows up, they have a little contraption there to send him on his way.
I had one of those. All right, well, up next, now this is a really interesting story that I didn't know was a problem in Milford, but having spoken now to many Milford residents, I guess it was a problem.
Yeah, the middle school kids are riding their bikes in groups, you know, being juvenile delinquents, but they're weaving in and out of traffic, riding at cars. Some lady admonished them and they followed her home and harassed her.
Yeah.
So,
wow, I know.
But
so
they got to be careful because, you know, they're going to do it to the wrong road rage guy. Some psycho could like go ballistic on him, and aside from the obvious danger of riding in traffic like that.
Yeah, so now there's an ordinance, and their bikes could get impounded should they not follow the rules. So more on that at milfordmirror.com. So I believe that's our last one, yes?
Yeah,
all right,
that's
well,
it.
Doug, as always, so fun. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
We'll see you next week on CT Polls, and we're going to wrap things up here. But of course, Nutmeg Sports is coming up at 2 o'clock, and if you missed anything, you can catch CT Polls on demand at HAN.network. Have a great day.